I just want to thank you all for coming tonight. Some of you said you'll come because you want to hear me share. And I told you you'll be disappointed if that's your goal. You should be here tonight to hear what God is saying through me, and hopefully you'll be encouraged. It's the first time I see the slide. You guys are full of surprises, but I like it. It looks good. So our theme tonight is obviously keeping the main thing. And I'll touch on how it links to our theme for the weekend. Philippians 3 verse 12, you can put that up, Vince. Not that I have already obtained all this, or have already arrived at my goal, but I press on to take hold of that for which Christ Jesus took hold of me, forgetting what is behind and straining toward what is ahead. I press on toward the goal to win the prize for which God has called me heavenward in Christ Jesus. That is just a disclaimer from my side that whatever I'm going to share tonight, I have not arrived yet. It may sound like that, but I'm still working towards my salvation. All right? So the theme, keep the main thing, it connects us deeply to both sport and in our faith. In training, if you lose focus on the main thing, your purpose, your plan, you burn out, you lose direction, you may even quit. The same happens in life. The beautiful thing about God is that He builds us through cycles of training and rest. What sports science calls supercompensation, which you've heard quite a bit about over the weekend. When we train hard, our muscle fibers break down. But when we rest, and we rest properly, your body doesn't just return to that same place, it actually shoots past that. So adaptation takes place. So Kewan touched on this on Friday, and I gave him -2 for his lecture. But I was actually like more 8, Kewan, to be honest. I just did that for effect. Okay. So that's supercompensation, when you surpass where you were when you started training. And spiritually, God does the same. When life breaks you down, when you face loss, injury, disappointment, I want to encourage you, it's not the end. If we rest in Him, He will renew us to be stronger than what we were. Isaiah 40 verse 31 says, "But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not faint." So there's a story about this 10-year-old boy who was walking to the shop to buy half a loaf of bread. So those of you who don't know, back in the day you could go to the store to buy half a loaf of bread, okay? And we did that quite often in our family. So, and as he was walking, he just had this thought come up in his mind, and that was that this world that he's in was created by God, his Father. And if God is his Father, it makes him God's son. And if this world is God's, then the world is also his because it's his Father's, right? Does it make sense? So I got a bit confused there. So, and so he simply said, "Lord, if this is your world and I'm your son, then I want to see your world." Simple prayer, but it was very, very powerful. It planted a seed. It didn't realize when it would, but it took years to grow. It took victories, defeats, injuries, and even a few disappointments to see that dream realize. Now, growing up, I was always fairly fast, right? Not the fastest, and I wasn't the best, okay? But I didn't enjoy losing as well. There was a year, I think I was in grade 11, which was the then standard 9. Okay, I'm giving away my age. No, not grade 9, I was in grade 10, sorry. We had Champ of Champs at Galvanale Stadium. Those of you know where the stadium is? We used to have a huge gathering of schools who participated. And I lost in the final that year. I think I finished about 6th, I don't know. But it really hurt, knowing and then hearing that guys who actually went on to win the race, they were selected to compete in the EP team that year. And that hurt quite a bit. And simply because I was so close, the guy who beat me was like literally arm's length ahead of me. So I could have pulled him back if I wanted to. But you're not allowed, obviously. But that motivated me. So not following it, later on that same year, I went to the track every day, and I just spied on people training and doing the thing. So I took a few things from them, and I applied it, and I trained by myself that time for that year. The following year, I arrived at Champ of Champs, which was the competition that I lost so badly in. And I'd worked on a few things. One was my start, so I had a very bad start, but I could finish decently, but I was too far behind to do any damage. So the gun went off. This is the final now, so picture this. The gun goes off. Dave, are you with me? Okay. The gun goes off, and we're running, right? You get to halfway, and we're still in a straight line, so I haven't lost anything, right? Normally, I'm quite far behind. So now I'm thinking, okay, now my race can start. And then I separated from the guys. I won the 100 that evening and the 200. But the big thing for me was when they announced the team over the PA. I had forgotten they do that. So I was walking around in the stadium with friends, and then I heard my name, Andrew, 100 and 200 meters, being selected. Rushed home to go tell my parents because they couldn't be at the meet itself. And my mom, who couldn't be with us because she was ill, said she heard my name. And she heard my name, and it was, in a sense, it was prophetic. Because, excuse me, whenever I talk about my mom, I get a bit teary. So it was prophetic in a sense. That she heard the name, but not just my mom, the whole of Galvandale would have heard my name, right? So that was God was doing, like He was preparing me for something. And then God said, I know the plans I have for you. Plans to prosper and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. What I heard God was saying to me was, I see you and I have a plan for you. So, speaking about my mother, this is what I learned from her in that moment as well. So later on, I competed and grew stronger, a little faster. I was training with Martin Davids over here. You can just wave, Martin. Thank you. Played a huge role in my life as a sportsman and as a man, basically. So thank you for that, Martin. And there was one meet where I'd ran and I'd lost to Bradley Agnew. It was, anyway, if you know the name, you'll know. And I was so upset. I got home, and my mom could see by the way I got into the house that something had just happened. But she wasn't happy with my attitude, you know. She didn't care what really happened. She just like, come sit here. And Vince, if you can put that up quickly for me. And she asked me what was going on. I said, no, I just lost this race that I think I should have won. And this is what she said. So if you understand Afrikaans, you can read with me. Dit maak nie saak of jy wen en of jy verloor nie, solank jy eerste kom. And in saying that, it took me a while to understand what she was actually saying. So I needed to grow up a bit. And what she was alluding to was just my attitude. You know, it should be the same whether I lose or whether I win, because it's about character, my godly character, and I should be a witness in any situation. So she challenged me quite a bit, and I took that since then. It hangs in my office because, you know, at work, it's quite hectic. People get on your skin, under your skin, and on your nerves, and I look at that and like, okay, let me come first today. Let me be the bigger person. But when I understood it, this following scripture came to mind, and it was 1 Corinthians 9, and it reads, do you not know that in a race all winners run, but only one gets the prize? Run in such a way as to get the prize. They do it to get a crown that will not last, but we do it to get a crown that will last forever. I'm going to share a few stories with you, if that's okay. So I'm just moving through time. Just stay with me. Now I'm quite older. I'm not as old as I am now, obviously, but a little older then. And things have progressed quite well in my athletics career. I was part of a province, the Eastern Province, who was dominating track and field at the time, and we had some of the fastest guys in the city representing the province. And I was fortunate to be part of a quartet of guys who really did well in the relays. And the one year, we went to Durban, and we had won the 4x1 relay in a new EP record as well. So we were surprised, friend and foe at that championships. The following year, though, we hosted in PE. And now we are defending champions. The team the previous year was strong, but this year's team, the following year's team, was stronger because we now had Lee Julius coming in from Craddock, who we call the Craddock Cannonball for obvious reasons. And so Lee came in and he just made the team so much stronger. So I usually start the relay, but on this relay, I was on the third leg, right? And your third leg run is normally the weakest in the team, normally, right? And so I was on third leg, but I was fine. I was happy being there. I was in the team. Didn't matter. So the gun goes off again in the final, and Lee just drops everyone. Eh? Like, you know, Afrikaans say, "It drops as a frot fell." Like, you know, he just killed everyone around that bend. He handed over to Paul Goris, who ran down the back straight. You know Paul, he's the current coach in the relay team, it's a relay team. And Paul ran a back straight like crazy, right? And he was not coming towards me. I had to now run the third leg around the bend. And we had a smooth changeover, and I was away. Now we're leading this relay, quite far ahead. And there was talks of us possibly not just breaking the EP record, but getting close to the SA record as well. We had Sherwin, Paul, and Lee on the team. And I got to Sherwin, and I don't know what happened. We far ahead, there was no stress. And you know the sound of a church bell? If you heard the bell, like, pling. So I heard that. So the baton dropped. No one was close to us. We could have walked that really, you know. And as the baton dropped, some of our, and especially mine, it felt like my hopes and my dreams also fell to the ground. It was my one ticket, I would say, to really establish myself as an athlete, you know. These other guys, they have been established already. Individually, for me, this was my chance to now get into a team and to be seen nationally as well. But a very amazing thing happened after that. So the baton fell. There was a huge crowd, and there was silence. Like, just imagine, like no one said anything. The whole of PE was disappointed because now we've let them down, right? Because they stayed for the relay. It was the last event of the championships as well. So baton fell, and people kind of dispersed. Each one went their own way. And I'm walking down the home straight to get my bag, and didn't look at anyone. You know, humiliated and everything. And I just heard this voice next to me saying, "Keep your head up. You did well. I'm still proud of you." And so we walked, and we got to my bags, and so it was the 4th of October. That person and I celebrated 17 years being married. So, yeah. So even in our failures, God sets up our futures, right? If that baton didn't fall, we would have gone on to celebrate. I probably would have gone on to party with the other guys. My life would have been very different. Could have been very different. But thank God for a dropped baton, you know. Don't tell my relay teammates I said that. You know. Romans 8 says, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose." And God had a purpose for me. But of course, as we journey as athletes, we get a lot of setbacks, and I've had my fair share of injuries. And one year I was, you know, getting closer to retirement, but I still felt quite confident and strong in my abilities, so I worked very hard. And I had one more shot to go to essays, I felt, right? A month before essays, I tore my groin. So if any of you have experienced that, it's probably the worst pain you could feel, right? Yeah, tore my groin. I had 4 weeks left before essays, so now I have to decide, do I go? You know, it's quite impossible to actually compete. But we have very good doctors, right? Smart people. So I went to go see this one doctor, and I explained to him I have 4 weeks before this big championship. It will be my last one, so I really want to be there. I want to compete. And I feel I can do well if I just heal properly. So he looked at me, he's like, "Are you married?" I'm like, "Yeah." do you have kids yet? I'm like, no. So he asked, like, do you want to play with your kids one day? So I'm like, yes. He said, okay. So he said, this is what we can do. I can give you an injection. You'll be fine on the day to compete. You'll get through 3 rounds of the 100 meters. But after that, you'll be damaged permanently. So you decide, do you want the medal? Do you want the family? Sorry, I get emotional when I think about it because Amy's right here. So I almost deleted my notes here. So I didn't get the treatment, but I went to SS anyway, right? And I thought, I'm just going to go and get in the blocks and run my last race. Okay. Stupidly, wondering, no, we do these things, we're very stupid as sprinters sometimes. The gun goes off, and instead of me taking it easy, I just blast out of the blocks, like a madman. And at 30 meters, I felt another sharp pain, the very same pain, and I limped down the track. I ran my slowest time in my life at SA Champs, my very last race. So, yeah, but at least I had closure in that sense. So I did my last race, and that was that. So that very same day, I'm sitting in the stands, and a very good friend of mine, Ruben Ramolefi, he was the SA steeplechase record holder at the time, came to me and he's like, have you heard of Athletes in Action? And I'm like, no. He's like, he thinks that's for me. He felt, and he's been looking at me for a while, I didn't know this, that sports ministry would be my thing. And I researched them and contacted them. They didn't reply, so it took them quite a while to do that. But years passed, and I started working at the university, and on one of the work trips, I'm in Cape Town. And in my hotel room, I get a call. So we're still on the phone, right? I get a call from reception. There's someone on the line who wants to chat to me. And this heavy American accent on the other side of the line asks to speak to me. And it was Jody from Athletes in Action, and she, did you all know Jody, I think? She said that I've been selected to represent Athletes in Action in Europe in 6 months' time. Now, I haven't heard from them in years. I'd actually forgotten that I've made the application. And I've also stopped training. So I was really out of shape. But I thought, you know what, God, this is just your sense of humor again. So I had 6 months to get in some sort of shape, to go and compete in Europe with some of the world's best athletes. But it was more about the ministry. So they assured me they're not interested in how I perform. It's about the community that we will reach out to. So I jetted off to Belgium 6 months later. And there I met up with some of the best athletes in the world, Melissa Barber, Muna Lee, some of the Americans there. There was one meet that I was at, probably about 20,000 people. You'll remember Oscar Pistorius? You will know Caster Semenya. I was the same meet as them. It was that caliber of meet. And here I am, little Andrew, lining up with these big, strong guys here. And again, my name came over the PA. And it was like a full circle moment for me, like, yo, God took me from Galvandale. Yeah, I am in Belgium, competing with these great people that I've seen and watched on TV. And I'm right there with them now. And it was a full circle moment. So we toured. Also, remember the prayer the 10-year-old boy I had? That was me, if you haven't picked that up yet. And here I am in Belgium. We toured Switzerland, Germany, France, Italy. We went all over Europe. This little boy from Galvandale, right? And God just showed me again that if we really just rest in Him, if we trust in Him, He will make things happen. So before this happened, I had now given my life to God, right? We were in Johnsonsville. You know Johnsonsville out here? And we were supposed to have a youth gathering that night. And the youth that we were visiting canceled on us, right? So we're visiting and they're not there. So our crazy pastor, Pastor Wayne Barrows, decided, no, then we are going to have like just a bash wherever we were. And we had a great time of praise and worship. And that night, God touched me and I gave my life to the Lord. If that gathering happened, that may not have happened as well. So again, just God's way of working. So the prayer that I prayed as a boy finally came true. And Habakkuk 3 says, this is one of my favorite scriptures, it says, though the fig tree does not bud, and there are no grapes on the vine, yet I will rejoice in the Lord. I will be joyful in God my Savior. The sovereign Lord is my strength. He makes my feet like the feet of a deer. He enables me to tread on heights. So what is spiritual super compensation? This is what I've learned, right? You can run without God and get tired. You can rest without God and feel empty. But when you run with God and you rest in God, you will be renewed. Brian also alluded to that. Supercompensation in faith happens when you allow God to restore you through surrender. You break, He rebuilds. You rest, He revives. You trust, He transforms. Matthew 11, and I'm 2 minutes away from closing, so if the team can get ready. Matthew 11 reads, come to me all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. My yoke is easy, and my burden is light. John 15 verse 5 reads, I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. So I want to ask you tonight, are you running your race with God or just yourself in your own strength? Are we chasing medals or meaning? Are you training hard but forgetting to rest in His presence? Now God is calling some of us to rest, others to rise, and some to renew our commitment. Maybe your baton has dropped like mine has. Your dream, your confidence in your faith, but God says, I can still use you. He's not done with you. Your setback may just be the setup for your greatest season of renewal. We heard lots about that over the weekend. So if you are here tonight, if you've been here this whole weekend, and you may need to realign, refocus, you may need to come back to keeping the main thing,